Hey, thank you for tuning in. This is the tutorial on how to approach the Bible. My name is Casey Cadeau. I'm with Truth Out Loud Ministries and the Church of the Truth Out Loud. And today, we will be addressing struggles to reading the Bible. We'll go over understanding the Bible, how to find time for reading, how to get past sleepiness and distractions. We'll talk about Bible translations, which can also have to do with understanding the Bible and sleepiness and distractions. We'll talk about how to develop a reading plan, or how to approach the Bible. That is the title. And I will reveal at the end of this video what is the best Bible translation. So stay tuned until the end, please. All right. So first, I want to just go over the basics. Okay, the basics. We have to go and get as simple as we possibly can about it. And so let me just show you. This is a Bible. Okay, so start with that. This is a Bible. All right. Now, if you have one, get it out, please. Okay, I will make some references as we go, and you can look for yourself. Okay, what I want to start out by explaining, because many people don't know this, they don't understand this, that this is actually 66 books between the two covers. Okay, it's not one book, it's 66 books inside of the two covers. Okay, so that right there in itself really cuts down the quantity. You can section it up. Okay, it's not just one book. Oh, what a mountain, how do I climb it? No, it's 66 books, so you can literally do one book at a time, and so on. Okay, so what I want you to do first is turn to your table of contents. All right, you turn to your table of contents if you're following along. And also remember that you can pause and go back anytime during this video. If I'm moving too fast or something, or you need a second, just pause it. You can come back. And okay, so 66 books is divided into two parts, okay, or two sections, okay, two main sections of the Bible. Okay, we've got what is the Old Testament, and then also what is referenced as the New Testament. Old Testament just references the things that are leading up to or to the coming of Jesus in the flesh. That's what the Old Testament is. It's events leading up to the coming of Jesus in the flesh. Okay, the New Testament is the things since Jesus' coming in the flesh. Okay, I stress that, in the flesh part. Understand this, that the whole Bible, all of this, has Jesus as the centerpiece. Okay, even creation and the whole universe is centered around Jesus. It's not centered around us, as much as many of us may think so. It is not. Everything is centered around Jesus. If you get that balance right, your life will go a lot different. Okay, so remember, Jesus is the center, not us. Now, if you're in your table of contents, what you're going to see is you're going to see the first 5 books. The first 5 books are known as the Torah in Hebrew, or the Pentateuch in the Greek. Okay, that's the Greek word, and really it's another name is the 5 books of Moses. Okay, so just to give you a brief on these first 5 books. Okay, the first one is Genesis. Literally means beginning. Okay, that's what the word means, is beginning. And that's what we see in Genesis. We see the creation of the heavens and the earth. We see creation of mankind. We see the fall of mankind, the flood, the Tower of Babel. And then right after that, a man by the name of Abraham comes on the scene. Abraham is the one that God chose to show himself through. Abraham is the one that the Messiah, Jesus Christ, will come from later on. Okay? And the book takes off from Genesis, from Abraham, and it goes through his heirs, which are also known as the patriarchs. All right? And so Genesis ends up with Joseph and his brothers in Egypt. Okay? When we go into Exodus, the second book, now I'm not going to go through other books like this, so understand that. When we go into Exodus, the second book, what has happened is there's been a great amount of time that has passed since Joseph and his brothers entered into Egypt. And at this point in time, they are oppressed. They're in bondage. They're slaves. And God uses Moses to draw them out of Egypt, to lead them to the promised land, the land that was promised to Abraham all the way back in Genesis. Okay? So Moses leads them out. He brings them what is known as the law. Okay, we see the 10 Commandments in chapter 20 of Exodus, but the law comes from Moses, or through Moses, from the Lord in Exodus. There's some problems that happen, this sort of stuff, but we're not going to go into all the specific details. That's what reading is for. Okay, so Leviticus, the third book. This is the book of law. This literally is just like a list of God's laws. You can go and read that, and you can know and understand what God expects of us in multiple details, far beyond the 10 Commandments. The fourth book is Numbers. This is like a census. God is doing a count of his people after they've, come out of Egypt. 605,000, 603,000. I don't remember exactly, but anyways, he does a census. Okay, and then you come into the fifth book, which is Deuteronomy, and this is really at the end of the 40-year wandering. They're getting ready to go into the promised land, also referenced as the land of milk and honey. And Moses is signing off, and Moses passes away, but he passes the torch to a man by the name of Joshua. Okay, so but that concludes what the first 5 books, the 5 books of Moses are: the Pentateuch, the Torah. Okay, and then next after that, if you're looking at your table of contents still, you see that Joshua all the way through to the book of Esther. These are known as the books of history. Okay, they give a lot of historical accounts, how the kings came about, starting with Saul and then David, and then many other kings after that. We do see some genealogy in there. I do want to hit on this Joshua, the book of Joshua. There, in the beginning of that, there's a lot of stories about these conquering and warring type of events that Joshua leads the Hebrew people in. But the latter half of it is kind of a survey. They're chalking off what areas of land belong to which particular tribes. So anyways, Joshua to Esther, those are the books of history. Now, when you get to Job to all the way through to Song of Songs, these are known as the books of wisdom. All right. Isaiah through Malachi, these are the books of the prophets. And then you get to Matthew through John. These are the Gospels. You hear a lot of people say, read the Gospels, go to the Gospels, or in the Gospels. We talk about the Gospel, which literally means good news. But Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John are the Gospels. Okay, these are the stories of Jesus. Now, Matthew, Mark, and Luke are known as the synoptic gospels. They are very parallel to each other, and John sits on his own. Okay, so each gospel has a specific purpose to it. Matthew's gospel is meant to appeal specifically to the Hebrew or Jewish people. Mark is just a very quick and brief, just a mapping layout of the things that happen. Luke, he comes right out and says that his is an orderly account, but his is meant more for the Gentiles, those who aren't Jewish people. And John focuses on the deity, the fact that Jesus was the Son of Man, that he was God in the flesh. So they all have their own points and purpose. So just know that. When you get to the book of Acts, or some call it the Acts of the Apostles, this is about the early formation of the church. We see a lot of accounts as to what took place there. Paul comes on the scene. When you get to Romans all the way through to Jude, this is known as the epistles, or letters from the apostles to the early church. And then finally, Revelation, and that is the book about end times prophecy. That is the breakdown of the Bible, how it's set up, how it's structured, categorized, the different areas of it, along with the separation of the Old Testament and the New Testament, and a bit of an explanation and understanding of what the makeup is of those 66 books. Amen. Now, let's go into what some struggles can be as far as struggles to reading the Bible. And now there's many reasons people struggle to read the Bible. And the breakdown basics of the Bible is the foundation to understanding it while reading. So all the information I just shared prior to this is the foundation. This is what will help you in understanding what you are reading. Okay? And we'll elaborate more as we continue through this study. We'll build on the foundation that's already been established. So I think that the understanding or the lack of for that is the main struggle to reading the Bible. People, they seem lost. It's a huge book, an undertaking. They don't know where to begin. And so now that you have some understanding of what it's about, it can help you. So that's your foundation. So as we continue through some of the other points we intend to address through this teaching, we will continue to build on that foundation of understanding that we just established. Now, another big one that is an issue or a roadblock that prevents people from reading the Bible is time. People today have extremely busy schedules. Believe me, I fully understand that. I get it. My life is just as busy as yours is, okay? There's a saying that the devil will keep you busy. All right? That's like, it's a distraction tactic is what it is. Our schedules have become so jam-packed that we've had to master or learn to multitask. Chewing gum and walking at the same time. It can be hard. All right. So reading is not one of those things that can fit into multitasking very easily. In fact, for effectiveness and comprehension, it is discouraged. And this is why it is called devotion. You are devoting yourself and your time to reading and spending time with God. So my advice is to start small. Don't make huge commitments. Start with like 1 page or 1 chapter a day. Start with 5 or 10 minutes a day. So when we climb a mountain, we do it 1 step at a time, And we should pace ourselves. Don't try to run the mountain or you'll get winded and stop. The fact is that the more that you read the Bible, the more that you'll desire to read the Bible, and vice versa. The less you read, the less you desire to read it. And I assure you that there is time in your day to set aside. I know you're thinking, how is that possible? There is. And sure, you may have to give up some screen time. Adults average 7 hours of screen time a day. And I'm not shaming you for watching content like this to help yourself. Just remember, all the content in the world won't read the Bible for you. So if adults average 7 hours a day of screen time, surely you can prioritize 5 to 10 minutes a day for Bible reading. Just to get started, okay? Just to set the pace, right? All right, so how do we get past sleepiness and distractions? This is something else that occurs with Bible reading. You begin to start reading, all of a sudden you're nodding out. Or the minute you pick up the Bible, all of a sudden your phone starts going off, or people start, coming into a room, or, the kids need something, or all of a sudden now there's distractions. Yeah. So know this, okay? Sleepiness and distractions, these could be either one of two things. It could either be environmental or spiritual, okay? A spirit could be causing these distractions or sleepiness. Now, I'll explain the environmental, and you apply that first. If you still struggle after making these environmental changes or adjustments, reach out in the comments and we'll help you with the spiritual, okay? So, one, you want isolation. That's what Jesus did. He went away, and then, early in the morning when it was still dark, he isolated himself. Isolate yourself when going into reading time. A separate room, put your phone on silent in another room, get up before others if you need to. Read in your car. Isolate yourself, set yourself apart. Number two, I would take 30 to 60 seconds to pray before reading. Request to God that you are free from distractions during your reading time. Ask Him to help you to remain awake and alert. Tell Him that you want to learn from Him, and ask Him to help you to understand what you read, and always pray in the name of Jesus. And another reason for distraction and sleepiness could be a result of the Bible translation that you are reading. A wrong Bible translation can make it difficult to understand what you are reading. Which leads us to the topic of Bible translations. Okay, so look, I'll show you. I showed you this is my Bible. This is my main Bible. This is what I use almost always when I'm reading, studying, looking things up. But I do have other Bibles. Okay, I have lots of other Bibles. I'm just going to show you a couple of them. I've got this one. This was my first Bible. Okay, well, not technically my first, but one of my first ones. And you can see it's kind of broken and it's wore out. I had to retire it, but I still hold it. And then I also got this one around the same time that I got that one. You can see this one's still practically new. Now let me tell you, all three are different translations. Okay, the first one I got, I actually started out in New King James, but then this was given to me. This is an NIV, and this just so happens to be what was the main translation that the church I was going to at the time was using. This was a gift to me from the pastor in the men's group. Okay, so that's what translation they were using. That's what I began reading out of. It's actually a 1996 Charles Swindoll Living Insights Bible, and it's based off of the 1984 copyright of the NIV, and I'll explain that more here in a minute. This right here is an NLT translation, and I got this about shortly after that because some of the guys at that church were also using an NLT, and so I wanted both. I barely have used this. Now I've pulled it out. This is what I like this because of how compact and little it is, and so I'll use this at weddings. If I need something at funerals, if I'm doing a hospital visit, something like that, because it's so light and easy to carry around. But really, I can look things up in it, but I can't handle it like I do my regular day to day. This is an ESV. Okay, now look it. This is what happened. This is how I've come to do my studying on Bible translations. I never, like, the Lord leads you to things you would never even imagine doing. But I was content in my NIV. And what happened was I was continuing to read my NIV at these men's groups at this church as they're using the NIV. After these Bible studies, some of the men would come up to me afterwards and they would ask to look at what my Bible says for some particular verses. And what we would see is that there was a difference between the wording that was in my NIV and the wording that was in their NIV. And I didn't think much of it until about the third time that this occurred. And the wording was so different. I mean, it wasn't even saying the same thing. It was saying something entirely different. It was at that point I asked some pastors at another church because I knew they were reading the ESV. And I asked them, I said, well, what made you guys select that particular Bible? And instead of just saying, this is what we like because it's the best or whatever, no, the pastor takes the time, he prints off a packet, I'm not kidding you, a thick packet of content and information on all these different translations and so on and so forth. I'm grateful for it. I went through about half of it, but that's all I needed to go through in order to understand. But what had happened is that there was a copyright change in 2011 on the NIV translation. So I'm still reading from what would have been an 84 copyright, but in 2011 there was a copyright change, and that's why there were so many differences in a number of different places. So this became a concern to me because my thought was, well, this is a fantastic way for the enemy to, casually infiltrate the church through changing the Word of God. And then as churches update their pew Bibles, their gift Bibles, and this sort of people just get new Bibles because they get wore out, the devil's had the Word changed. And unless you really know the Bible, most people wouldn't even notice the change. That's what concerned me. That's what started me on the task of trying to determine what was the best Bible translation. So, of that packet that pastor had given me, and I don't know if you'll be able to see this or not, but what I will do is I will actually have this interjected into the screen, okay, so you can see it and it'll be there as I'm talking, okay? But what you would see is that this has been broken down, and what you have is 3 different areas. You got the literal, the dynamic, and the paraphrase. The literal is basically a word for word, and the dynamic is more of a thought for thought. That would be in the middle. And then the paraphrase is like idea for idea. That's on the far right. So, when I realized this was happening, I was teaching the Bible, and it became a concern for me because we do call ourselves Truth Out Loud. I want accuracy. I want to teach the Bible correctly. Do I make mistakes sometimes? Yes, of course I do. And when I do, I announce I messed up. I made a mistake. I read that wrong. I interpreted that wrong. This is what it really means. But when you have a good, strong translation, and if you're teaching, you're going to want to gravitate more towards the word for word, the far left side of this graph, this chart. And so what we see on that chart is that the NASBA, the New American Standard Bible, is the most accurate word for word. Tied in second is the ESV and the Amplified. In fourth is the King James Version, then the New King James, and it goes down and down. All right, now when we get to our thought for thought, what we'll see is right in the very middle is the NIV. And to the right, a little bit more towards the idea for idea, but still under the thought for thought, is the NLT. I am going to say that those two translations are very smooth, easy to understand readings. Okay? Now, if you're going to go with the NIV, and I can't speak a whole lot on the NLT, but if you're going to go with the NIV, I would search for an 84 copyright. I believe that it would be a little more accurate and closer to the truth. But they're a smooth read, okay? And then we get down to like the idea for idea, which the message would fall under that. And so we've selected the ESV. We didn't go NASBA, we went ESV. I didn't select the KJV, okay? And this is why. I don't have a problem with the KJV, the King James Version. I don't have a problem with that. And I don't have a problem with anybody who reads that, okay? If you're comfortable reading it and you understand it, that's the key. That's all that matters, okay? We see that it is a fairly accurate translation on the word for word. I personally don't read it because it's very difficult. It's not how I talk. It's not how I communicate with others. I don't speak in an old English kind of manner, so it's not easily for me to understand it. I can understand it, but I just prefer something a little smoother. Okay. Now, I will say this. Some people that are KJV only, King James Version only, purist, okay? There's some people out there, they believe that it is the only true translation of the Bible and that no others measure up, and they are a watered down version. And I have to say, I oftentimes wonder if these same people pray to God in Old English, in this Shakespearean style language. Are they praying to God that way? These people, these purists, these KJV only people, they can have a tendency to come off rude and judgmental. The reality is that type of language can be difficult for many to understand. Now, let me give you just a couple testimonial examples that back up what I'm saying. Okay, so one time I encountered a new Christian, and I mean, he was hungry, it was wonderful, and so I gifted him and his wife a couple's devotional Bible. That was in the 1984 copyright. It was an NIV translation. This was something my wife and I got 20 some years ago. We never used it. And so I just thought, you know what? He's new, she's new. Here, use this. Let your marriage grow in this couple's devotional. It's very easy to understand. Their pastor, who I perceived as a friend, made comments later on during his service that these comments were reported back to me by another friend that He was really running it in the dirt as watered down. I made a gesture. I made a nice gesture, and the heart wasn't seen there. And I don't agree with his statement or judgment either. Anyhow, another time I was at a Baptist church. I allowed my children to go to the children's ministry, and my son, who was 10, maybe 11 at the time, he was shamed for having his NASBA and not a King James Version. His Bible was more accurate than theirs. A 10-year-old has a Bible, not only has it, but it's already read it at that point in his life at least once. And he's being shamed because of the type of Bible he has, rather than being encouraged because he has a Bible. I then noticed the same church, the same Baptist church, I then noticed that the pastor was preaching, as he was preaching from the King James Version, he would translate what he was reading into everyday common language that we speak and understand, and his interpretation was about word for word to what my ESV said. So, is that what has come from delivering a sermon from the King James Version? It's just translating it to common language? Imagine how much more you could share in that same amount of time if you just used a translation that was already worded so. And so that's what I mean about rude and judgmental. But I don't take offense. I just see it as a maturity thing. I don't have a problem with those who want to read or study from a King James Version, and I really understand the difficulty when changing translations. I'm just saying, don't shame or judge others what they read, because your translation isn't that perfect either. Okay, it mentions unicorns and is the only translation mentioning Easter, where the others call it Passover. Okay, so it's not as perfect as some of these purists believe that it is. So, one translation, however, that I will protest is the Passion Translation. It was on that chart. The chart is probably 4, 5, 6, 7 years old. I don't know how old it is. And I'm sorry to tell you this if you happen to be someone who reads from the Passion Translation. But let me elaborate what my problem is with it, okay? One, it often exceeds the original text by 50%, the words in it. If there's 1,000 words in the original text, the Passion Translation's going to have 1,500 words. That's the average on it, okay? So there's a lot of adding to God's Word, and I don't want that. I just want what God says. There's enough other noise in the world. A lot of addition to God's Word. It is no longer considered a translation by most scholars. That's just the fact of it, okay? And it's also been removed from many distributors, as they don't recognize it as a true translation either. It's not based on the original language. That's what makes it a translation. They go into the Greek or the Hebrew language, and they translate the words from the Greek and the Hebrew, and they translate it into English or whatever language it is. The Passion Translation is just taking, any translation, whether it's an NLT, an ESV, an NIV, and then he's making his own translation off of that. It has absolutely nothing to do with the original language. That's the problem with the Passion Translation. So, I will reveal the best translation at the end of this video still, okay? I haven't forgotten, but first, okay, let's talk about developing a reading plan. Okay, so there's an old phrase that there's more than one way to skin a cat. And to be clear, I don't recommend skinning cats. It's kind of morbid, sadistic, it's cruel. And I like cats. I have a cat. No, a cat, okay? The point is, there are many ways to develop a plan that works for you or to approach reading the Bible. Okay, there are many sources out there that offer like a Bible in a year. You may even be familiar with this, Bible in a year. Okay, what it does is it gives you a daily schedule of reading so you can read the Bible in 1 year. Okay, so these can be helpful, but they can also have an opposite effect. Okay, and let me elaborate on that. I don't have any problems with the Bible in a year, but I want you to understand what the potential pitfalls are of it, okay? We've all made New Year's resolutions. We're going to exercise this year. We develop a plan or a schedule, and then 3 weeks into the new year, and we've already dropped from the plan. Usually it's because life cannot be fully planned and something throws you off course and you never really recover, and then ultimately you just kind of give up. And the same thing will happen or can happen with a Bible in a year plan. Some things come up and you miss a day, so now you feel like you need to read 2 days the next day. And if time is a struggle for you, or maybe you become multiple days behind, you will begin to see the massive mountain in front of you and become discouraged and quit. And then the devil wins. If we remember that this is a long distance run and not a sprint, that will help. In a long distance run, we can't be expected to pace ourselves with another runner. We need to set our own pace, even if that's a walk or a intermittent running. And so with that thought in mind, approach the Bible in a year as a guide or map showing the way. Set your own pace to cross that finish line that's comfortable for you. If it takes 2 years, it's not a sin. You accomplished it. Okay? If it's in 6 months, it's a win too. Either way, it's a lap of a multi-lap race. And yes, that's what I just said. It's not one and done. Okay? You don't just read it one time and that's the end of it. We read it again. That's maybe news to some of you. Every time we read it, again, we see something that we missed last time. And we continue to put more of the word into our souls. Understand? So if you choose a Bible in a year plan and you miss a day or a few days, don't get down or discouraged. Just pick up where you left off at next time. Don't get shame or guilt when you miss a devotion. Okay, so it's much like when you leave your family for a period of time. When you get back together, you have joy to see each other because you've missed them. Same thing with our devotion. Don't apologize to God, but express how you missed him and you're glad to be back. Now, if you've never read the Bible before, this is how I suggest that you ascend that mountain. I suggest being airlifted to the center of the mountain and being dropped off at Camp Jesus. So remember that the whole Bible revolves around Jesus. So let's start by learning about him, what he did, and what he said. And I'd like to interject just a couple things here. First, listening to the Bible is not bad, but it's not the same as seeing it on the page as far as how your mind processes and stores it. All right, and then secondly, learning about Jesus from TV shows and movies is not the full truth and will give you a false understanding and interpretation of Jesus. The creators of The Chosen, for example, have said themselves that 95% of their content is outside of what was written. So please, for the love of God, don't let these TV shows be your source for the story of Jesus. There's no easy button when it comes to the truth. So start in one of the Gospels. Many will suggest John, but I believe it is one of the deepest Gospels, and I would steer a beginner to the Gospel of Mark. Also, there's no rule that you can't read more than one book of the Bible at a time. I suggest that you always have a foot in one of the Gospels, at least until you know Jesus very well. But say you want something in addition to it, or for a change of pace, check out some of the books of wisdoms like Psalms or Proverbs. Many people will read a chapter of Proverbs a day. And there's a reason for that. There are 31 chapters in Proverbs. And so what people will do is they call it the proverb of the day. If it's the first, they read chapter 1. If it's the 15th, they read chapter 15. They read the proverb of the day. And I know what some of you are thinking. What about the months that only have 30 days? Well, you either skip the 31st chapter or you read 2 chapters that day, okay? And don't even ask me what to do in February, okay? So it's a proverb a day. When people do this, when they commit to this, it actually increases their wisdom. It takes time. You know, you do this over a course of a year, 2 years, 3 years. The book of Proverbs will be literally inside your mind, and you will have a level of wisdom that you won't notice it, but others will notice it. So it's a good thing, a proverb a day. So as you develop a routine, you will find that you have bookmarks placed in many books. A good practice might be one bookmark in the Pentateuch, okay, the first 5 books, the books of Moses. You might have a bookmark in the histories, in the wisdoms, in the prophets. You have one in the Gospels. And then the rest of the New Testament, you have one somewhere in the rest of the New Testament, starting in Acts. So you'd have places in 6 areas of the Bible. So sometimes we need that change of pace or that change of scenery. So when you get in that place, that point, pray to God and ask Him to guide you to where He would have you read. He's going to speak to you like this. I encourage that when you're reading your Bible that you make highlights. Like write in your book. Write in it. Don't be scared. Look, random flip here, okay? Random. Let me look something up. Random. Okay. I got a lot of notes in here. Give me a break. Look, you can just see this. Look, there's highlights. There's notes. You know, I write in this book. I make notes of things, okay, all over. I encourage you to do the same thing. Write in it. Do highlights, underline stuff, make notes in the Bible, okay? Take ownership of your Bible. That's why this one is more valuable to me than this one. I can navigate this one. I know this one. Yes, I can navigate this one, but I don't know this one. I don't know how to explain it. Okay. So So these markings, though, that you've put, they will help you when you revisit that area. The notes can speak to you years later. We will also tally mark at the end of each book when we finish reading it. We do this because it helps us to track how many times we've read that book so that we can keep a balance as far as reading the other books too. I like to add book tabs. You see we've got these book tabs and they're color coordinated, okay? The colors mean something. And that's what I like about it. So the first 5 are a pink, then it goes to orange. So the pink's the Pentateuch, the orange is the history, the yellow's the wisdoms, the green is the prophets, the blue are the gospels, and the purple are the epistles, including Acts. Okay, so I like that. It makes it quick and easy to navigate and to flip to what book. And I'm telling you, when you add tabs, and some people speak against it, but when you add tabs, you remember where the tab to particular books are too, and it makes flipping so much faster. I've had people challenge me on it, and usually I beat them. I mean, I have tabs. I mean, I should be able to. Okay, so get some tabs, and I like the color ones. Note too that something in the New Testament may not make sense, and that could be because many times it is referencing something from the Old Testament. Okay, so many Bibles will have a cross-reference section, and we'll put something up to demonstrate that. But if you've got a Bible like this, a 2-column Bible, what you'll see is in the center, these are your cross-references. They'll have the address. They'll have the verses, chapter and verse number in the center there, and it'll give you an address of a cross-reference that has something to do or similar to that verse. This can help you to just broaden your study on this stuff. So there's means to cross-reference. Okay, so study Bibles, and commentary Bibles. That's what this is. This is a study Bible. It's thicker than most. Okay, they can be helpful and they can be harmful. I will say that half of the commentary in this Bible I agree with, and the other half of it I'm not sure of, or maybe a third I agree with, third I'm not sure of, a third I don't agree with. And then a lot of the times when I'm looking for commentary on something, they don't offer me anything. But anyways, it can help you understand, or it could lead you off course. And I recommend a study Bible to those that have read the Bible and are now looking to study it. So allow the Holy Spirit to reveal to you first, okay, before you're seeking man's interpretation. Also, will recommend Bible apps. I personally use what's called the Blue Letter Bible app, and you can read a number of different translations through the Blue Letter Bible app. With you can have 2 side-by-side translations for comparison. You can look up the original language, whether it's the Greek or the Hebrew, and you can expound on the word's meaning, which will give you more depth of understanding on that verse. You can also cross-reference from the Blue Letter Bible app. You can search for a verse or a particular word. So this concordance is what that's called. You can seek things out that way. Bible apps can be very resourceful. And maybe I can talk my wife into it. We've mentioned it before about doing a tutorial video on how to use the Blue Letter Bible app. We've mentioned doing it as a class. And then maybe we can also suggest some other Bible apps to use as well. So if you have interest in Bible apps, ask in the comments if you would like more apps that you can reference. So hopefully this has been resourceful, helpful, informative, and removes any misunderstandings about the Bible and encourages you to read the Bible and understand the importance of it. We will be deceived by the devil if we don't know the Bible. He has slipped into the church. He's in the church. He's in the pulpit. I'm not saying every church and every pulpit, but he's there. He's even in Bible schools. So don't be so fooled that he hasn't gotten in there, because he has. Okay, now I know. I said that I would reveal the best Bible translation. The best Bible translation is, drumroll, the one that you will read. Yep. The one that you can understand and navigate through. That is the best Bible translation. Some people need to start with a children's Bible just to get some of the stories. Then graduate and mature to something else. There's no shame in it either. You aren't reading for anyone else but yourself. And nobody's going to read it for you. So when you select a Bible, go to a bookstore and test drive a couple different translations first before you make your purchase. Read a couple of chapters and see how the shoe fits. You can do this through the apps too, the Bible apps. I encourage you to get an actual Bible and protect it. Phones are at the mercy of internet connection and can leave you open to distractions, not to mention they aren't good for the eyes. Anyways, that completes my teaching on how to approach the Bible. I've given you some basics and stuff. I hope it's been useful and helpful. That I also thank you for tuning in, and you have a blessed day.